Hi, welcome to the last episode of Season 2 of Calm Down with James Eade. I'm James Eade, and I'm telling people how I learned to calm down. I'm not telling you to calm down. I'm telling you to find what works for you, because this program is dedicated to people that have fallen into addiction and have been trying to recover from addiction. And I'm trying to share my strength, my experience, and my hope with others so that they too can find recovery from whatever you've been addicted to. It just doesn't matter. Addiction is addiction, recovery is recovery. But everybody has their own path, and it's up to you to find it and to walk it with your head held high, looking people in the eye. But I do have a selfish reason to do this show. I want to buy this book, Freedom, Your Path to Recovery, because I talk about my path, but I encourage you to find yours. There's another book that I'm going to have come out next month, I hope. No Blame, No Shame, because there's no reason to cast blame. If you point a finger at somebody else, other fingers are pointing back at you. So, and shame is the lowest vibration that you can have. You know, I never made any good decisions based on shame. So rise above it. Look people in the eye with your head held high. So this is my message to you, to help you. And I can't tell you all the tools and techniques, so I have a couple of segments in the show that are to follow. One is my senior gripe consultant from LA, Rick Rosner. He'll be in segment 2 of this episode. And the other person is a yoga therapist. And I know what you're thinking. At least I know what I was thinking. Yoga, it's about stretching and flexibility and that sort of stuff. Sure. But I don't do Pilates either, but no, there's much, much more to yoga than just poses. And Yudhishthira is a yoga therapist and trainer and teacher, and he will come and help share some of the things that yoga can help you with calmness and serenity. And you will know serenity and you will know peace. And you can go, scrolling across the bottom of your screen is airu.tv. And that's the website that you can go and see other seasons and other episodes and season 1, season 2, all of those, because I have more episodes than I have subscribers. So unless that changes, there may not be a season 3. So please subscribe to airu.tv and you'll be notified when other episodes come on. But I want you to remember, there's no change without change within. It's inside ourselves where we begin. It's not our brains, it's not our hearts. It's deep inside where it starts. And there's no change. Well, things change when we do. So thank you for helping me to calm down. Welcome to episode 12 of season 2. And this segment of the show is our gripe session. And I have my senior gripe correspondent, Rick Rosner, available today to talk to us. Hi, Rick.
Hello.
And do you have a season wrap-up kind of gripe that you want to
This
share?
is part 2. We started with the biggest gripe of my life, where I eventually sued Who Wants to Be a Millionaire because they ask multiple choice questions. They give you 4 choices, and you have to pick the right answer. Except my question, the question that knocked me out, they didn't have the right answer among the 4 choices.
Right.
And I've learned from experience that you don't do well when you take a game show gripe to court. Judges are not. Now so I don't know if we got to the point where I think I had a year to sue them under statute of limitations. But in the year leading up to that, I'd written them a zillion letters and made a bunch of phone calls saying, you guys asked me a fucked question where the correct answer wasn't in there. And they insisted, that wasn't what the question was about, that we gave you 4 choices and you just needed to pick the best of the 4. And in fact, after my lawsuit and the appeal, um, they changed the official rules saying that they weren't obligated to have the correct answer in there. That
Wow.
the contestants were just required to find the best answer offered. So that's thing one. Thing two is, if this happened, I was on the show in the year 2000, and I sued him in the year 2001. If this had happened today, I don't know that I would have done that, because the expectation of fairness on game shows, I think, has declined wildly. The expectation of fairness in life has declined wildly. Now, there was a quiz show scandal. There's a movie about it. Robert Redford made it.
Yes,
with
yes.
John Turturro. About the actual quiz show scandals of the late 50s,
right.
Where back in the 50s, TV was still fairly new, and late night or just primetime quiz shows were huge. They were easy to produce. TV was a tough medium to produce, because it was low res, it was mostly live. It was tough. But so game shows were an easy thing, and people were into them. Most of America would tune into things like the $64,000 question.
Sure.
And there was a huge scandal where one of the shows, I think it was it the 65? Yeah, it was giving a charismatic Charles Van Doren, a blonde, good-looking professor guy, the answers.
Right.
And then the John Turturro character, Ralph Stemple, maybe, a less, telegenic guy, found out about it or was party to it. And, they told him he was going to lose, and just be a good sport about it. And he was not a good sport. Mm-hmm. And he reported the whole thing, and it wrecked wrecked primetime quiz shows for a decade. Right. And the whole nation was shocked and appalled. And even Eisenhower, the president, commented on it. But but my thing was 40 years after that.
Right.
And now we have all these shows that are reality, and to some extent they are competitions, like The Bachelor or Love Island or Love is Blind, where you're competing to hook up and there are all sorts of accusations, and I think there is even currently a lawsuit over Love is Blind, over producers manipulating the contestants to create drama.
Right.
And in fact, there's a fictional show starring Craig Bierko. What the heck is it called? That ran for 3 or 4 seasons. It's just behind the scenes of one of these shows. And so, like, given the current atmosphere, I don't know that I would have sued him. But yeah, don't, because you're not going to. Nobody has ever prevailed suing a quiz show. But I did. I was pissed that I've worked on quiz shows. In fact, I made a research error that fucked up an episode that was never aired. Now, the producers said it wasn't just my fuck up, but I think they were just being nice to me. I think I've talked about this, where I forgot that the Incredible Hulk, when he's not the Hulk, had 2 different names.
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner in the comic books. Right. But when they made the show with Ferrigno in the 70s, Bruce was considered a fruity, a gay name. So they changed it to David Banner. And
that I did not know.
Yeah. And then it was back to Bruce to be, to be true to the comic books for the movies.
Huh.
But in the 70s, they were homophobic. And, when you said Bruce in the 70s, you said like Bruce,
I see.
Yeah. So,
my brother-in-law's name is Bruce. So
it's a fine name. It's a historic, it's like, but when I
Great
checked,
heart.
yeah, when I fact checked the question, I said, yeah, that's right, and whatever, and then I forgot the alt. I didn't do enough research to recall or find the alternate Bruce, and the contestant gave the different Bruce or the different banner,
Right.
and they ruled him wrong, and and then so it was all fucked up, and
Oh,
so
boy.
maybe it's just karma because I fucked up a quiz show. In fact, I was a creator producer on another quiz show called My Generation, which was for VH1, and it was about you had teams of different generations answering questions about the music of the different generations. Um, and if when somebody got to the final round where they could win the big final prize, and they were an idiot, which they often were, if there was a technical stop, which there often was, we'd see how they were doing and be like, let's make some of these questions easier because they're a fucking idiot to give them a better chance of winning. Which again is fucking with the structure, but never to. It was not ever to fuck over people. It was we wanted people to win. So we, given the chance, we would. So and so anyway,
And you
I
got the viewing audience that think they could win if they ever got on the show.
Yeah, and in fact, like when Millionaire went from primetime to syndicated, they quit casting smart people. The produce exec Michael Davies publicly said he didn't like the demographic who got on the show. That it was too many middle-aged white guys because it was based on skill, and middle-aged you played on the phone by hitting buttons on a touch-tone phone, and middle-aged white guys were the ones who had the focus and the knowledge to get on the show. Jeopardy has had a similar problem over the decades that women like Jeopardy, but men qualify for Jeopardy at a higher rate. I don't know if that's changed, but in previous decades, they tried to address that. And
it's really strange to me. Maybe I don't know. I don't have any explanation for that.
But I'm squarely in the nerdy white guy demographic. And I feel like if maybe they would have been more receptive to my complaints if I were more telegenic. Like they love when officers come on the military officers come on the show. Navy officers, when a Navy officer comes on in his dress whites and he's a blonde, they had a blonde guy in his dress whites come on, and his wife was blonde because they show the wife in the audience, and like they showed me, and I look like me, and then they showed my wife in the audience, and I thought she looked good. She was wearing like an orange dress suit, and she was hunched over out of concern for me. When they show, and so like my wife's not nerdy, but she looked a little nerdy because she was like this when they did it. She'd been sitting up, and if she were blonde, I feel like they would have been more receptive. I don't know, but the whole thing like super pissed me off for a long time. I spent a year doing research showing how many things were wrong with the question, not just that they didn't have the right answer, but that there was that like their answer was Quito, Ecuador.
Right. And I would have gone with Kathmandu.
Yeah, but Quito is built on the side of a volcano that runs down into a river valley. And Quito
above sea level or height from
all right. So
how do we calculate the height?
Quito has big city limits. I mean, it has some cities outgrow their city limits. Quito, for some reason, set up city limits that are pretty wide so that within the city limits of Quito or the Quito Metropolitan District are places that differ in elevation by 3 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a point within the Quito Metropolitan District that is at 1,500 feet above sea level, 1,500 meters above sea level. You can find another point that's 20,000 feet above sea level.
Wow.
So, and
that's dramatic.
There's kind of a convention of where you pick the altitude, but not really. There's no official rule about where you pick the official height.
Right.
Like I grew up in Boulder, so I know Denver, like the official height of a mile above sea level, Mile High City, is like the second height at the second step going up to the state capitol.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very specific place, but it's asking the height of a elevation of a city is crazy. 3 kilometers difference.
Right.
It's like asking what's the elevation of Los Angeles. Los Angeles runs from the beach at 0 to mountains that are 5,000 feet above sea level.
Right.
And in the U.S., there is a convention that you do it at Lake City. But anyway, that's just one of a zillion problems. And that wouldn't have been enough, I think, to get the question thrown out. But what would have been enough was that freaking La Paz, Bolivia is clearly at 4 kilometers above sea level, 4,000 meters, which is crazy that people can even live there.
Right.
That's the height of some mountains in the state I grew up in,
right,
Colorado, which is, anyway, they didn't have that answer, which is clearly the answer. What was it? Oh, and yeah, when I bitched to the World Almanac, I got on the phone with the World Almanac because I thought if I could get them to go to bat for me, because I knew from the way the question was structured that they must have used that list in the World Almanac. And I said, if you could write to them and say that list is fucked, that maybe Millionaire would change its mind. And World Almanac did not write to Millionaire. They didn't want to get involved, but they did get rid of that list. After I bitched to them, that list was no longer included in the Almanac. Because it included only 30 cities, and the altitudes, even the agreed upon altitude, were like 5 of them were wrong.
All right. So yeah, you turned them on to something that was just not accurate enough for publication. And I get obsessed with stuff. Right.
And while I was suing ABC, which was the producing entity, I was working for ABC because Kimmel hired me to work on his show, which was an ABC show. And that's evidence of that. I mean, that shows what a frickin' mensch Kimmel is.
Kimmel is. Okay.
And in fact, the guy I was suing, the EP of Millionaire, is the guy that gave Kimmel like more than one huge break. And he was so pissed that I was just about the whole thing, and that I was working on the Kimmel show. But Kimmel still stood up for me. And I heard, since we were all kind of in the same circle, like I would hear like little specific details about what pissed him off besides the lawsuit. He was so pissed that the only lawyers I could find to do this lawsuit worked on a houseboat out of Marina del Rey. And he was like, ABC hired this super expensive, like super vicious law firm, Quinn Emanuel. Quinn Emanuel is a law firm. They probably spent $400,000 defending the case. Quinn Emanuel when they opened up offices in San Francisco, to get people's attention about the kind of litigation they do, they mailed hand grenades to dozens of businesses across the city. Not live hand grenades. They were like hand grenade paperweights.
Okay.
But like at least one company got a hand grenade, and they called the cops to send out the bomb squad. So that was the kind of law firm that I was up against with my two guys, Tovar and Cohen, who worked on a houseboat.
Wow. Yeah. That's always it seems like rich people always can get away with things that poor people can't, partly because they can hire better lawyers.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the system that rubs people the wrong way.
I'm the biggest loser in the history of Millionaire, because going on the show, I left with $1,000, but then I spent 40 grand on litigation. So I made negative $39,000 on that frickin' show.
Right. Yeah. And that's, what lessons did that teach you, if any?
That time is precious and I shouldn't waste it on bullshit, but I still do. I owe you pages. You made a deal with me, like, where I've got to be more productive. I'm working on a novel, and I owe you 10 pages by Christmas, 9 days from now. But instead of writing, what I do is I restore micro mosaics. My
Right.
wife, like,
Beautiful.
this thing, this thing was in pretty good shape. It just needed some cracks repaired and some places where it was missing tiles, and to be gone over with a toothbrush and just generally brightened up. And because it's nice to sit there and do little artsy craftsy stuff.
Well, that's a good exercise in serenity,
Yeah, but I shouldn't be doing it like 6 hours a day. I should be writing 4 hours a day and doing this stuff, a few hours a day.
Right. Okay. So the lesson that time really shouldn't be wasted is something that intellectually, but you haven't put into practice.
That's right. Stephen King says that time is a pretty pony. That you need to get your pony in order. You need to ride the frickin' pony, because if you just let it run free, it's going to run away and you're going to be fucked.
Right. Okay. So what is going to change your mind about whether or not you get me those 10 pages?
No, I have the pages. I'll send them to you, and I'll pretend that I wrote them between now and then. But no, these are pages that I've had for a while. I'll get in there and I'll revisit them and like soup them up a little bit.
Right.
Because you can never do too many revisions. You can revise and revise and it takes, like, didn't Hemingway say the first draft of everything is shit? Yeah.
And it's also in the, like, I hate reading what I've written, because you do find errors and things that should have been caught or whatever. But there's no question, like, one of my books is in its 4th edition. And part of it is that things change and you have to incorporate it and modernize it. But, the other thing is that there are things that I wish I had done better.
Yeah. And but right now we live in a first draft world, because social media, when people, type and or talk, and it just goes out.
It's memo mode. That's what I used to say when things changed. And for me, it was in the 90s when the time for reflection was over, and the internet made this really, and this happens to article writers. The pressure to generate content to put on the internet immediately is replaced the desire for well-researched articles. So the people that were doing the well-researched articles weren't interested in cranking stuff out. And the people that were good at cranking things out replaced them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, well,
the content went way down. The
not even
quality of the content.
people, not even people anymore, because you type in certain stuff into Google and AI writes you an article on the subject
Yeah.
within 3 seconds.
Right.
And Chat GPT, the latest version of Chat GPT, is even faster and more thorough.
I'm making a
It doesn't
note.
always get everything right, but it's very well put together. You might
And
be getting fed bullshit, but it's really good bullshit. And like you can talk to Chat GPT and you can ask Chat GPT and say, this isn't great for people, is it? And Chat GPT will come back at you and say, well, you can like change your attitude and stuff, but ChatGPT is pretty much like, yeah, you guys are a little bit fucked, which
Yeah,
is
it's here to stay. Yeah. And I also think, like, I haven't been broadcasting this because it's not out yet, but my latest book, I told a few people about it. And one of the persons, their first question to me was, how much of it was AI written? And I was surprised and offended for about a minute, because then it dawned on me that that's a very legitimate question.
yeah. I mean, AI is not great at creative stuff, except that I asked, I talk with a guy like we talk, a few times a week, and sometimes we'll get into a threesome with Chat GPT, and we ask, he subscribes to the latest version, which is scary good compared to the previous versions, and it's like, pitch us 5 movies that
Yeah.
we might watch in 2035, and they were all decent pitches. I would have been felt okay taking any of them into a pitch meeting.
Right.
And then I realized, like, I'm working on a book in the future about a character who's in entertainment, and it's always fun, a little cheesy, to drop the names of like bands into a book about the future. Like, we were just, like, we were at a concert of the Bloody Tampons or some crap like that, and and so I said, give me, I asked Claude, which is the version I use, give me the name of some possible celebrities 10 years from now, and it gave me a bunch of names, and like it gave me a couple Patels, because Chat it quite properly reasoned that that will, given the demographics of the world, we will have more stars from India, and and it gave me some Latino stars, and I haven't asked it to give me band names yet, but that seems like, give me 100 band names of bands we might see in 2035.
Right.
And what you do is, out of the 100, maybe I'll find 3 that make me laugh. And then maybe I'll have it do it. Now give me 100 more. And then maybe I'll find 2 more. I mean, which is kind of how you write jokes. If you've got time to write jokes for something that's going to be seen by a bunch of people, you crank out dozens and dozens of jokes.
Sure.
And you take the best 2.
Right. Sure.
So I may turn to AI. I almost certainly will use it for something like that.
Yeah.
Or the name of restaurants. Like, I've got a bunch of like ridiculous restaurants in the future where.
Right. Well, and that seems to me to be legitimate. It's like research in general. I used to turn to books, like an encyclopedia, a dictionary, something like that I would have on a shelf. I could pull it up, but there's no need for those things anymore. I used to have a globe. I don't need a globe anymore. And they were out of date pretty quickly anyways, so all of these things are just, you can look them up, and I don't see the basic error or what could be wrong with looking things up on your phone or on our.
But here I'm using AI to do my scut creative work.
Right. That's where I would draw the line. I mean, for me, it's like, give me a story idea, I don't really go in for that as much as I do help me research a name or like what's a plausible name, because that's where I get in trouble. Like, I get in trouble with thinking of,
Well, there's a way. If you don't want to cheat by using AI, the government has a database of every frickin' baby since 1880,
uh-huh,
and that's great. If you're writing a scene set in the 1940s,
right.
and
What were the popular names there?
then
Yeah,
you just go to the most popular baby names list from the government, and you say, give me the names of the most popular names of 1915, say. And
right.
you might, it used to be by year, now I think it might be by decade, but give me the
Sure.
most popular. And those are the people who grew up to be in. The people born in 1915 are now in the 40s. They're 25, they're 30 years old. Those are your Thelmas, your
Tiffany.
Edna's, your
Tiffany was
Helens.
there was a whole bunch of Tiffany's for a while, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great because like
Elmo.
it's a crap movie when the cop is named Jack.
Mm.
And my wife gets so sad because every middle-aged female bureaucrat is now named Carol.
Mm.
And she's a Carol.
Carol's
And
a meme now. Yeah. Or
yeah,
Karen. Karen's a meme.
Karen is, but Carol is kind of Karen adjacent. Carol is like a nice Karen.
I get you.
Kind of same era, and will grumble, will bitch at you at first. Carol will be like, but then she will, like, she's basically a good person, will be like, yeah, all right, this was a pain, but I did this for you. They always come through, and
Yeah.
they're like an unsung bureaucratic hero. And then Rick, the same deal. It's Carol and Rick. You know exactly within 5 years when we were born. And Rick is a dick. Rick and Morty. Rick, I don't watch the show, but I know that Rick is one of the biggest assholes on TV.
Okay.
So anyway, I've learned stuff from Suing Millionaire. I haven't taken any of the lessons to heart.
Okay. All right. So we'll end on that note, is that when you learn a lesson, try to take it to heart. Otherwise, you went through it for nothing.
Yeah, like, okay, so like we had this argument on a different show in the morning where like we were arguing about like 75% of Americans are overweight or obese. And what on the other side was Adam Lamparello, who was saying that Americans need discipline. And on my side, I was saying Americans need Ozempic. There's a pill that fixes it. Take the frickin' pill and save your discipline for something else.
Uh-huh.
So what
Like
I
writing
need
your
is
book.
a pill that makes me buckle down.
Okay.
I mean, the help can be there. You know what you need to do, but you still need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, I'm gonna say a peace and harmony prayer for you after the show to help you buckle down. And until then,
appreciate it.
Take care of yourself, and I'm going to expect those 10 pages.
All right. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too. And thanks again for being a regular senior gripe.
Well, thank you for having me week after week.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks again, Rick. Okay, Rick's backstage now, and I'll talk to him later, and I'll point my finger at him and say, get to work. But that doesn't usually help people calm down. So whatever works for you to learn how to calm down, well, that's going to be the next segment of the show. And we're going to have someone come on and tell us exactly what are the tools and techniques that we can use to calm down. And until then, be calm. Welcome to segment 3 of episode 12 of season 2 of Calm Down with James Eade. This will be our final episode for in 2024, and hope to see you in 2025. Who knows? But every episode, every episode, we've had a segment from Eudithra, who's a yoga trainer, therapist, and he helps us to learn different techniques. So I'm going to bring him on for the last time in 2024. Hello, Eudithra. How are you?
Hello, Jim, my friend.
And what are we going to talk about today in terms of we've gone through the chakras, we've gone through the niyamas, the yamas, and is there some final message that we want to concentrate on about staying calm? And
Sure.
just to put you on the spot.
Well, there's a tendency to think about much of yoga philosophy as sort of a nice idea or good theories or pretty images or things like that. And the truth of the matter is that yoga is just eminently practical in daily life, in the moments when stuff is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
The practice of yoga becomes more valuable in those moments than when you're sitting in meditation or on a yoga mat or something like that. And so that is one of the sort of the core messages that I carry with me, only from the fact that has been my direct life experience.
Right.
And
Right.
I've also witnessed it in hundreds, maybe thousands of others in students through the decades, people whose lives become immensely more gratifying in a very material way. They get along better, they have more self-control, their ability to channel their anger and rage in appropriate directions in a useful way.
Mm-hmm.
All these things are just the byproducts of a successful yoga, by which I mean yoga and meditation practice.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and the practical aspects of how it has changed my life, my direct experience, as I can just reinforce what you're saying, in that I don't find myself reacting as much with the old programming that how I was raised, and all that sort of stuff would come out before I was conscious of it. And now I have this ability to pause just a bit. And I attribute it to many spiritual techniques and practices that I use. But yoga is one of them that has helped me and for me, taking a deep breath. Already, the mind can calm the body and the body can calm the mind. And it's just been it's been a gift that I can give to myself on a daily basis.
well, one of the sort of misunderstandings about our nervous system, in particular, the parts that we call the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, which are so intimately intertwined with our endocrine system. That is the chemicals that our body produces,
Right.
that have a particular impact in terms of how we view things. Are we, ready to run, or are we ready to fight? Those basic things.
Right.
And there was for a long time a common belief that those sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems were inaccessible to us, and that is simply not true. It's simply that they are not directly controllable in the same way that you can um, force your mind to do something, or hold your body in a particular yoga posture, something like that. But much of the therapeutic tools, I'm thinking of a guy named, probably mentioned him before, Bessel van der Kolk,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote a book called The Body Keeps a Score. And he's just a researcher.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a psychiatrist, and he's an MD, I think. But I mean, just an excellent book, The Body Keeps a Score. So worth reading. And one of the things that he has found is that the tools of yoga, which in particular he's talking about chanting and pranayam in particular, those two tools that he has found them to be of greater clinical value than talk therapy, group therapy, or drug therapy. And that's a little bit overwhelming to think that, oh, if I simply begin to chant Om. Look, so many of my friends, and I don't have it here, but Ananda puts out these little devices, and all it is the sound of Om being chanted continuously, 24/7. Plug it in, turn it on, and in the very background, when you get even a little bit still, you hear Om just all the time. And so, this is again, it's very, very practical to be able to, title the name of your program, Calm Down with James Eade. All right. That ability to calm down on purpose is not available to most people. They don't know how. I'll go out, take a walk. Yes, that helps. It does help. Take 10 deep breaths. Yes, it does help. However, there are more specific and scientific techniques that are of even greater value. I say scientific because for me, the science of yoga and Western science are not separate. Right. They are essentially expressing or exploring the same central truth. It's simply that Western science is relatively new, relegated as it is to within the last 300 to 400 years. And much of that really concentrated within the last 125 or 30 years.
Right.
And so here's the thing about yoga, Jim, is that yoga asks us to do some things that are pretty challenging. All right. And one of them, and it's all based upon our perception of time. And that is to say that we operate in a way, I mean, it's just sort of built into us, hardwired, that we're going to operate linearly along a flow of time. And that is a complete illusion. We know it. Physicists know it, that time is malleable. Time changes.
Yes.
It's relative to all kinds of other forces, in particular, the speed of light.
Right.
And, but so yoga asks us to do some things that are inherently quite challenging. One of them has to do with the past. And that is to say that we are asked, if we step onto the path of yoga and accept karma and reincarnation as the basic model for purification and perfection of an individual being. I'm using language here on purpose to make it easy. I'm not talking soul, or I'm not talking yoga terms, Atman, things like that. So an individual being, anybody who has been challenged in his or her life in the way that I know that you have been challenged, and I've been challenged, great sort of, I don't mean just us, but we have a certain level of mental acuity. We have a certain amount of education, and there's such a strong tendency to think that's who we are. But yoga asks us to identify ourselves instead in relationship and our lives and the things that happen to us in relationship to the things that we don't even remember.
Right.
And yet any dedicated alcoholic has had to take responsibility for things that he did not remember.
Of course. Yeah. Blackout drinkers are always talking about that. They black out, don't remember where they parked their car, or,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so in that context, we accept that as being like understood. We understand someone became so inebriated, but in yoga, it's the same basic thing. It's just that what we are inebriated with is the appearance of a material world that is essentially non non-physical, but the appearance is so convincing that we buy into it.
Yeah.
And so the idea of karma and things happening in this lifetime that I have to be responsible for, not only my reaction, but the fact they're happening at all, that I'm supposed to be responsible for that for lifetimes that I have no memory of.
Right.
And so you can see that it's tempting for people to do past life regressions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not denigrating that as having some potential value.
Yeah, it's a tool, right?
Only to say that, if you've had, 10 million incarnations, of what value is it going to be to regress backward to 1 or 2?
Yeah.
Chances are everyone knows what a tsunami is. A tsunami is completely unseen on the surface of the ocean. And a tsunami begins somewhere far away.
Yes.
But the impact of that tsunami is felt potentially in many places around the world. And that's the way it is with karma. So we're asked to sort of buy into this that, all right, I don't remember, but I'm going to have to accept things that are coming to me as if I asked for them to be that way. That's one challenge. Looking into the future, and here's the other part, which is equally challenging for people. We don't know what we're capable of. We don't know the power that we have. And so yoga provides us these basic incremental tools, the yamas, the niyamas, pranayam, asana practice,
Mm-hmm.
meditation techniques, all of which are things that we can do on our own, but they bypass a very simple thing that Western science really is built upon. That if I want to know about the laws of gases, I'm going to go back to Lavoisier and Boyle, back in what, the 1800s, and I'm going to believe what they did,
Mm-hmm.
research they did. I'm going to believe it because it has been reconfirmed over and over again.
Like
And
Maxwell's equations for magnetism is the same thing. Yep.
I mean, we somehow accept that the religion of science, and Yogananda's first book when he came to the United States, the first book he published was called The Science of Religion.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is that we are capable, and I mentioned earlier the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Those are very physical realities.
Mm-hmm.
If I am feeling depressed, if I have certain chemicals in my system, in my brain, can I change that chemical balance? And the answer is yes.
Yes. And I used to say, if it wasn't for cortisol, I'd have no sol at all. And but it's possible to lower that stress hormone, or and these are the types of things you can change. Some people, and it again, Western science can help you moderate your moods, your depressions, and things like that. And they will give you a pill to take that will help you do that. But there are other tools and techniques that can also help you at just without any external source substance. So sometimes the combination is necessary.
Absolutely. And there is no doubt that 12-step meetings work for people.
Mm-hmm.
That group therapy works for some people. Talk therapy and one-on-one therapy works for some people. Drug therapy works for people. It oftentimes gives them a little bit of a break in the action that allows them an opening to begin to explore what they are capable of on their own.
And part of what I've been trying to do, and the way I conceptualize it, is to empower those who feel powerless, and to tap into the gift that we were given, the power that was freely given to me. Is not of my creation. I can't claim it. I can channel it though, and then who knows what I can do. It's really been, then the universe will reflect it like this is you're channeling it because you're manifesting change. And this is, you know, and, you know, the words don't sound as impressive as the experience does. The experience just is convincing.
It's true. And again, what we're capable of, those experiences that you're pointing to, almost everybody, not everyone, but almost everyone has had some experience in his or her lifetime of being in that place where you feel like you are complete and whole and one with everything that is.
Mm-hmm.
It happens sometimes spontaneously.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it never happens through the use of drugs.
Right.
All right. It's tempting to say, well, maybe the drugs will help get you there. Occasionally, I've met people who've had some sort of experience with ayahuasca or LSD or something like that, where they had enough of a profound experience that they then, when they went back into their daily life, were willing to do the work
Mm-hmm.
to achieve that again without the drug.
Yes. Right.
Not very common.
No, but I can remember Ram Dass once saying that, you know, he was in India working with a guru, and he gave him LSD and he just popped it into his mouth, and he says,
Yep.
"Oh yes, we had something like this that, you know, and you know, it could help a little bit, but it didn't have the effect on him that Ram Dass expected."
Exactly. And by the way, Ram Dass is his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, was his guru's name, and just boy, what a an amazingly bright soul, and that guru put so many great yogis out into the world, including Ram Dass.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the it so much of it comes down, Jim, to accepting the fact that we have the power to overcome karma, and I would say overcome, which means to um, counter, to neutralize. Neutralize is the right word. To neutralize karma, and remembering that, going back to the chakras, that the karma is lodged within each of the chakras as a particular energy vortex,
Mm-hmm.
and that through certain yoga techniques, and maybe you and I can do just one simple one right now,
Oh, sure.
together, and your viewers, of course, anybody who's watching this could follow along. But this, what we'll do together, is simply the very beginning of the power that we're capable of, because for those of you who have read, I'm speaking to your audience, who've read the autobiography of a yogi, go to chapter, I want to say 37, I don't know. It's a chapter on Kriya Yoga.
Mm-hmm.
He does not give the technique. That requires preparation, and it is not given, it is sacred, it is not secret. Anybody can receive Kriya Yoga who has done the work to prepare for it. But it's important to do the work for it because it is something of great value. But Kriya Yoga in particular has the capacity to burn up these seeds of karma intentionally using the power that we have, which is essentially the power of the divine that's been given to us, and that we have simply lost track of who we are. So anyway, if we can sort of close out with this.
Okay.
All right. And this is just some very simple yoga. Take a double breath in through your nose and tense your whole body. And then double breath out through your mouth. Now, when we do that again, hold your attention to the point between the eyebrows. So double breath in, double breath out, double breath in, and double breath out. We'll do 3 rounds of counting the breath. That is, say, we'll control the breath, measuring it in, holding it, and measuring it as it goes out. So go ahead and exhale all the way. Make sure your posture is good. Let's inhale, and we'll inhale to a count of 9. Retain. Exhale through the nose, 9. 2 more rounds. In. Retain. And release. One more round. Retain. And release to a count of 9. So controlling the breath. Now with your palms resting, palms upturned, hold your gaze to the point between the eyebrows, and your job now is to not control the breath at all. To simply watch. And watching the breath often begins by holding your attention at the end of the nasal passages and following the breath as it moves or as it pauses. So as the breath moves in and you follow it, it'll lead you to the point between the eyebrows. And it will feel cool. When the breath is ready to exit, it will feel warm, but hold your attention to the point between the eyebrows even then. As this breath continues to be observed, you'll find that the exhale breath space, as after the end of the exhalation, will naturally become longer and longer, more and more open and at ease. Now, once you've achieved this place or the state of non-controlled breath, where you're simply the observer, you can use the mind to create the vibration of the sound of the syllable Hong, H-O-N-G. And so as the inhaling breath is going in, the mind is vibrating with the sound of H-O-N-G, Hong. And as the exhaling breath is released, the sound of Sa, S-A-U. And then there's that pause. So I'm going to take a few breaths using this Hong, Sa mantra. You can let the mantra go and let the breath fade into the background, just holding your relaxed attention to the point between the eyebrows. The natural result of all meditation techniques, if they're done well, is a sense of expansion, moving beyond the physical form. And along with that sense of expansion comes the qualities of calmness, sometimes the quality of joy. And sometimes we get to actually hear the sounds of the chakras or see lights as well. But trying to do those two things, listen or see sound and light, is counterproductive.
Mm.
And then bring your hands to your heart. You can just finish your meditation with Om Shanti. Shanti means peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Mm.
And so that, Jim, feels like a way to, the whole knowing about chakras is great. But if you know nothing about chakras and can do what we just did and do it longer, you'll go deeper. And again, what will happen doesn't have anything to do with knowing about yamas or niyamas, pranayama, or anything else other than the experience of yoga, which is to say the experience of feeling at one with all it is. So there we go.
Thank you so much. I noticed, and I wasn't conscious of it doing it, but I put my fingers like this, middle finger and thumb together in my lap.
There are several mudras that people are familiar with. A mudra is just a mudra literally means a seal. Like if you think about the way that old time, like in the Dark Ages, that people would wear a signet ring and they would impress the wax with the ring.
Right.
You know, that's a mudra. You seal something into a shape. And what we're sealing when we use mudras is simply a particular flow of energy. There's a meaning to them. And if someone is accustomed to using a mudra and they don't get distracted by it, it's great. But you don't need to use a mudra either.
Right.
Yogananda taught just palms open and palms upturned like this.
Right.
But you know, I mean, yoga is greatly detailed, so that every finger, for example, has a bigger quality, and then many other qualities. The index finger, for example, like I'm number one, about the ego, and the thumb is about willpower, self-control. So in Gyan Mudra, Gyan means wisdom, we put our thumb on top of the ego.
There you go.
Like that. And we hold it like that. That's Gyan Mudra, the essence of wisdom, to not be controlled by the ego.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So if that's comfortable to you and you do it naturally, then by all means, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. And there was a light show too, and spiraling into what I thought of as the eternal now while it was happening to me, while we were controlling our breath. And just for the sake of knowledge, is there anything sacred about 9? Because I use 4 and then 8. I go from 4 to 8 and something.
You know, I tend to work in prime numbers or multiples of prime numbers. All right. So
then yeah,
that's just a preference, and for example, there is a I don't want to even say it's a mystical number, but it's certainly a recurring number, and in yoga, 12 being one of them. For example, when we are doing, for those people who are practicing Kriya Yoga, we do them in rounds of 12. 18 is another number. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 chapters. It is not by chance.
Right.
The war of Kurukshetra, the Bhagavad Gita, lasted 18 days, not by chance. There are there's also another magic, or I shouldn't say magic, another relevant number called 108, which is 18 times 6. And so you have 3 times 3 times 18, and you get to 108. And if you have a mala, I don't have one on me, but if you take a mala, which are the meditation beads, they all are strung with 108 beads.
Interesting. Did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And what a nice way to bring 2024 to a close. And I hope, and I'm certain, but you know, we never can be certain of these things, that I will see you in 2025.
Blessings, my friend.
Blessings to you too. Thank you again. Well, Yudhishthira has been such a big help to me with this show. And we remember that when we try to calm down, there's various ways to do it and to find what works for you. And Divya will take us out, as she always does, with a way to say goodbye for now. Welcome to the final segment of Calm Down. And I want to introduce to you, my loyal listeners and viewers, Divya Lovewise, that wise yogi. And I would like you, at the end of every show, I'm a little bit agitated and worked up and all that kind of stuff. And I was wondering if there's something that you could do to calm me down. Could you just say goodbye to us in any way that you see fit?
Sure, I would
Oh,
love to.
I will take off and let you do that. Thanks again.
Okay. Well, bring yourself into a comfortable seated position, feeling your feet on the floor and letting your hands rest in your lap. Palms up or palms down is a great way to start bringing yourself back into center and focus with your own divine energy and letting go of anything that might have wanted to stick to us throughout the day that may be energy we don't want to carry throughout the day. So having this basic position, feeling grounded, even closing your eyes and taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And one of the ways we can bring ourselves back to center is observing with our senses what we can feel, the temperature of the air in the room, observing any sounds that you hear. Noticing any smells in the air. And then bring your awareness to your breath. As though you're watching it from the inside out. Watching the inhale wash into the body. And watching the exhale wash out of the body. Just like the waves of the ocean as they wash onto the shore. And if you find your mind still wandering, you can even place one hand on your lower belly and one hand on your heart so that you can feel with your hands this breath washing in and washing out. And with your mind's eye, visualize this inhalation and exhalation as an internal shower, clearing away your energy so that it's refreshed, it's rejuvenated, and it's restored. Releasing your hands into your lap, just give yourself a few seconds of pause in this return to peace, enjoying it. When you are ready, you can open your eyes, wiggling your fingers and your toes, feeling grounded in your body, grounded in the best part of yourself, and you can go out into the world and carry that best part in the forefront of your mind and your heart.